Good evening. Sir Keir Starmer says he's standing by his decision to suspend Diane Abbott from the Labour Party. Over the weekend, the Hackney North and Stoke Newington MP wrote a letter for The Observer in which she suggested Jewish, Irish and people from the travelling community do not suffer the same racism as black people. She's since apologised, but today the Labour leader said the comments were anti-Semitic and would not be accepted by the party. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Welcome to the People's Republic of Hackney.
4 years ago, Diane Abbott was hoping to be Labour's Home Secretary. Now she's not even a Labour MP. Her party has withdrawn the whip and she's under investigation after writing a letter to a newspaper which Labour's leader viewed as anti-Semitic.
In my view, what she said was to be condemned. It was anti-Semitic. It's absolutely right that we acted as swiftly as we did. That's the change that you've seen in the Labour Party.
In her letter to The Observer, Abbott suggested while some white people suffered prejudice, it wasn't racism. It is true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience this prejudice, she wrote. But they are not all their lives subject to racism. In pre-civil rights America, Irish people, Jewish people and travellers were not required to sit at the back of the bus. We wanted to speak to Diane Abbott, but her office said she wasn't available. In a statement, she apologised for her comments and said she wanted to disassociate herself from them. She said the remarks were made in a draft of her letter, which was sent to the newspaper in error.
Diane Julie Abbott.
In 1987, Abbott became Britain's first black woman MP and has faced years of racist abuse during her parliamentary career.
It's a sad day because she has such a proud legacy of fighting racism, not only in her own life but generally in society. So it is more with, in sorrow than in anger. It's right that the Labour Party suspended the whip from her.
Jenny Manson's also Jewish, but on the left of the party, and she thinks Abbott's suspension was wrong.
She is not an anti-Semite, she's not a racist. It's abomination to consider that she's a racist herself.
In Diane Abbott's Hackney North and Stoke Newington constituency, there was support for the MP among shoppers in Ridley Road Market.
She was right to say that the blacks suffer more racism than the Jews as well.
I know she's right, because obviously I'm from the same community and I know history.
I think she's an absolutely fantastic local MP, but it seems like she's not chosen words very carefully.
Diane Abbott must now wait to find out if Labour plans further disciplinary action. Simon Harris, ITV News, Hackney.
Good evening. Despite protests and legal action, ULEZ detection cameras are still being installed in boroughs opposed to the Mayor's controversial expansion of the scheme. The leader of Harrow Council has told us he believes ongoing work is a disgraceful waste of money while they wait for courts to rule on their legal challenge. Harrow is one of 5 outer London boroughs, arguing that the decision to press ahead with the expansion was not consulted on properly. But the Mayor insists it is his duty to tackle toxic air pollution. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has more.
Fresh out of the box, a shiny new camera is about to be fixed to a traffic light in Harrow. It's one of the sensors Sadiq Khan needs to police his extended ultra-low emission zone. But Harrow is one of 4 London boroughs, along with Surrey County Council, which is asking the High Court to declare the ULEZ expansion unlawful. Harrow's Conservative leader thinks installing the cameras is jumping the gun.
I think it's disgraceful. I think it's a waste of money to put it in ahead of the court case. He should wait for the court case to happen, see if it's legal or not, and then go ahead if he wants to. I still don't think he should go ahead, but at least he will have the legal power to do it.
But he's entitled to.
Well, that's what the court's about.
Transport for London initially held off putting up cameras in the rebel boroughs, but now it's pressing ahead with the infrastructure needed for the London-wide ULEZ launch in August. More than 2,500 of these cameras will be needed to enforce the new clean air zone. Along with road signs, it's costing Transport for London up to £70 million.
They're putting cameras all over.
Andy Fellini is not a fan of the ULEZ. He's run Italian restaurants in Hatch End for 40 years. Many of his customers live outside of Greater London. The boundary is just streets away.
They won't come, or if they come once in a while when they celebrate something.
because it has a big impact, the £12.50 on the top of everything else, you know.
It's thought around 50 of the new cameras have been vandalised. These in Abbey Wood in South London had their wires cut. The ULEZ extension divides opinion. Jane lives on a busy road in Harrow, close to where the cameras were being installed.
I'm very pro it. I live on the neighbouring street and it's been very busy, very congested, and basically the pollution can make our lives a misery. And also for longer term, I mean, we're thinking about, you know, the future for our children.
City Hall claimed today nitrogen dioxide pollution in all London boroughs exceeds World Health Organisation guidelines. But the councils challenging the mayor in court argue toxic air is far less of a problem in outer London. Wasim is a doctor and thinks his council is wrong.
As a GP in Harrow, I've been seeing more children with asthma getting worse, probably because of the air pollution. And there are a lot of statistics showing that now. Also, we see a lot of chronic obstructive lung disease patients get worried with this air pollution. They get recurrent chest infection.
The camera rollout is gathering pace, despite the opposition of local authorities and the looming court case.
And Simon, where are we with that court case then?
We expect the hearing at the start of July. I get the impression TfL and the Mayor think the legal challenge is pretty flimsy and won't succeed. But whatever the outcome, it leaves less than 2 months before the launch of the ULEZ on August the 29th. So you can see why TfL is in something of a race against time to install the cameras. But it really has infuriated those Tory boroughs which are fighting the legal challenge. They say they haven't given permission for the cameras. They want them removed and they're refusing to cooperate with TfL. But TfL is pretty adamant it doesn't need permission, largely because the traffic lights it's attaching them to, it owns.
Right, OK. Simon, thank you.
The first plane carrying people out of Sudan touched down at Stansted Airport earlier. There were emotional scenes as many people on board, including many Londoners, have been desperate to leave the war-torn country and see their families again. Well, their return has been a race against time during a 72-hour ceasefire, which remains in place in Sudan. Simon Harris reports.
From the war-torn streets of Khartoum to a chilly Stansted Airport, the first flight of British evacuees from Sudan landed this afternoon. In the coach park of the Essex Airport, there were emotional reunions. Fida from Acton was in Sudan visiting her daughter Sharma, who works for Save the Children.
And the way from where I live to the place they took us, it was a nightmare.
What was the worst part?
All of the journey from Manshia to the Wadi Saidna. It was frightening.
How do you feel to be home?
Relieved. It's very surreal, but relief is the first thing. And we're out of danger. There's no bombings. We're not ducking and diving. We're home.
How do you feel to be back in London?
Oh, it's grateful. I'm very happy.
But for Mohammed from Westbourne Park, the wait would be a little longer. His daughters, aged 6 and 4, weren't on the first bus.
I had to call every time just to find out what's happening, and there is no any information to give us updated what's happening. When I was here since 12 o'clock, waiting for the plane, and every time I keep delaying it. But I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're here. This is the most important thing for me now.
Your daughters are 6 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
What's it been like being a dad at home knowing they were in a war zone?
It's difficult, to be honest.
It wasn't long before the next group of evacuees were driven from the terminal to the coach park. Ahmed from Kingston was waiting for his dad Sharif. After days of anxiety and worry, relief at last that he was safe and well.
Thanks to the British government for the support and for providing the evacuation. It went very smooth, and we are happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been tense, very, very tense. But yeah, happy to see him back. Yeah, it's been a week and a half of tension and anxiety. But yeah, really, really happy to see him back.
And finally for Mohammed, the moment he'd been waiting for, reunited with his daughters who'd been staying with their grandparents.
My second daughter, Lamar.
How do you feel?
Very happy to be here.
Tonight there are Londoners able to breathe a sigh of relief. Their loved ones are home and safe. But for others, the wait goes on. Simon Harris, ITV News, Stansted Airport.
Next, he was a chat show legend who entertained audiences right across the globe. Tonight, it's been confirmed that Jerry Springer has died at the age of 79 at his home in the United States. He was famously born inside one of London's tube stations during the war and frequently returned to his home city to perform on stage and present on the radio. Our correspondent Simon Harris looks back at his life.
Hello. Hey, welcome to the show.
When Jerry Springer's show was imported from America, British viewers had seen nothing like it. It was always raucous, often outrageous, even violent at times. It was one of the first shows to make stars of dysfunctional members of the public.
Hi, I'm Jerry Springer, and you're listening to Capital Gold Drive.
He found fame in America, but London was always home. In 2004, he was a guest co-host on Capital Gold.
I love it here. I mean, I love London. It's so cosmopolitan. You really get the feeling that you're in the center of the world when you're here.
It was quite an experience. Firstly, because at that point he probably was the most recognisable person on earth. And he was very known for this sort of shocking show, very controversial show. And he was anything but.
His unlikely birthplace was Highgate Underground Station, where his mum went into labour during an air raid in World War II. The station was being used as a bomb shelter.
I was born on a subway, in the subway tube.
And that was during the war?
Because it was during the war. There were the bomb shelters at the time. There should be a plaque there that, you know.
There really should. Jerry Springer.
Born here.
Born here,
Yeah.
was here.
In 2003, his controversial TV show inspired an equally controversial West End musical, Jerry Springer the Opera. It won awards, but also sparked protests over its blasphemy and swearing.
And all that jazz.
The real Springer, not an actor, also took to the West End stage in the musical Chicago.
When I sing, people really get involved because they have to guess where the notes were supposed to have been. So we're going to have people shouting out, B flat. That was an A. Hey. Well, I can carry a tune.
He even added pantomime to his repertoire, appearing as the villainous Captain Hook in Peter Pan in Wimbledon in 2010.
Captain Hook is such an outrageous character, and it's so camp.
Jerry Springer had many strings to his bow: newscaster, talk show host, actor, American icon and proud Londoner.